Enchanting is a powerful mechanic in Oblivion Remastered, but an equally as powerful mechanic is spellcrafting, or spellmaking as the game calls it. In this video, we'll be going over the spellmaking system in Oblivion. It's a far less convoluted system when it comes to actually setting it up, but there's a lot of nuance to the actual numbers game of creating overlapping effects, weaknesses, and other fun mechanics. But in my typical fashion of upfronting the knowledge in my videos, let me give you the down and dirty of what's going on here. For starters, our list on the left here is all of the effects we have unlocked from spells we have both learned and have the appropriate skill level to cast. These are what we use to create our spells. By selecting one of these, it's added to our effects section, which we can then customize the range of said spell. Touch is for melee, target is for actual range, or self is, well, for self. The magnitude, which is the damage of the spell, the area, which is the area of effect the spell will apply, either a damage explosion or heal, whatever it is. Then the duration, which is how long the effect will last. For buffs, this is self-explanatory, but for damage abilities, you'll be doing the magnitude number, which is one right here. You've selected every second for the number you have in the duration, which is right here. So in this example, this would be 3 damage every second for 3 seconds. Below this are 2 other important numbers, these 2 right here. The first number here is the mana cost associated with the spell you're creating. Whatever this number is, ignore the fraction portion right here that says out of 12. It's some sort of weird UI glitch, is then multiplied by 3 to give us the cost in gold associated with making the spell. 2 other little things. The skill that you'll be using to cast the spell is associated with the effect with the highest mana cost. There are then breakpoints of cost that have skill requirements. For instance, anything over 400 mana to cast will require 100 of that effect's spell school. For instance, this example right here, we have a destruction spell and an alteration spell. If I set the slider to max on this one right here, the game shows me that I need this much skill to cast it. Lastly, we can ramp up the damage of our spells by adding weakness to magic at the end of any list of effects, because this effect stacks multiple times. I'll go into this more as it's quite complex, but you can get a disgusting amount of damage out of this. But that's too long to watch this entire video. And if that's all you wanted to know, please feel free to just go ahead and shut the video down. I want to be respectful of your time. You can also navigate to any part of this video that interests you the most using the chapters about the timeline in the description. And if you do end up heading out, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe, as each one of those helps me out in a huge way. Lastly, if you've not yet purchased the game, you can find a link to my Fanatical in the description and pinned comment, which will give you a Steam version of the game for 17% off, and I make something like a 4% commission, which goes directly towards my mini Aussies toy fund. Well, let's get started on my ultimate guide to spellcrafting in Oblivion Remastered. So to start us off, let's talk very quickly about where you can do spell making. Of course, you'd have to go through the entire Mage Guild and unlock the Arcane University by doing the recommendations in every one of the towns. I have a video on that in the upper right hand corner. Conversely, though, you can just unlock the Frostcrag Spire and then go get the Mage Tallow candles, and you'd go ahead and do it through there. If it's your first time doing the game, I recommend you actually go through the Mage Guild. It's a lot of fun, and it's a really cool thematic way to get into something, right? Because it's supposed to be reserved for like only the most practiced of mages type of thing. But once you go through that, you'll have access to actually doing both enchanting and spell making. So also, like we talked about in the intro, is your actual spell effects. So this is going to come from all the spells that your character knows and can cast. Meaning if you have any spells that say in red text up here, I'll say something like you don't have enough skill, then you do not know the effect to put into the spell making process. Now, this is usually, that text is usually reserved for higher level spells. So for an example here, we have Heal Major Wounds, which is a higher level restoration spell of Heal Minor Wounds. It doesn't matter about that level. As long as you have this effect, you're good to go. But an example would be that one that I had, Weakness to Magicka. You need 50 destruction magic to unlock this. So I was not able to originally spellcraft or enchant with this ability until I got the actual corresponding level to do this. So that's how those mechanics work. The only other thing though I want to talk about very quickly is, and it kind of corresponds into this, is Fortify and Drain as far as skills and your effects go. So what I mean by that, I'm sorry, not your effects, your abilities go. So what I mean by that is you have all of these, right? You have all of these attributes, and you have all of these skills. Well, getting the Drain or Fortify of any skill or any attribute gives you the Drain or Fortify of all of them, because it's a singular effect. It'll just say on the menu, Drain skill, Drain attribute, Fortify attribute, Fortify skill. You click it, and then you would choose the corresponding attribute or skill you'd want to do. So getting an example of this would be the Fortify Strength spell requires a higher level of skill than Fortify Luck. You can get access to that right away. So just getting Fortify Luck, going and buying that spell, will give you Fortify for all these that would otherwise take a higher skill to learn. So that's just how I wanted to talk about skill effects. Let's jump into the actual spellmaking menu. And the basics of spellcrafting are a lot of what we just talked about in the very beginning of this video, where we select any number of effects on the left, we put them into the right, and then we craft the spell as long as we have the mana to craft it. That's all it needs to be. You can put every single effect in the game. If you can somehow cast it, you can do it. So you can go ahead and press fire damage here, and we have the range value. So touch is melee, as we know. Target is I'm physically going to target and shoot a fireball, and then self, I'm going to cast it on myself and do damage to myself. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So coming back here to touch, we have the magnitude, which is the amount of damage that it does. Area is the area of effect that it does, and duration is how long this effect will last, be it a damage spell, a buff, a debuff, whatever it is. Just remember that this duration is going to increase the overall damage, because what's going to happen here is this spell in this instance is going to do 100 damage every second for 120 seconds. So it's just going to be 2 minutes of fire. So that is why that is all important, and we can use those numbers to scale things and have a lot of fun. You can also enter the name for it, so this could be a custom spell if you want, like Red Rockets Doom. I don't know, I got a dog. Why am I saying stuff like that? That's weird. But let's go ahead and bring this down. And what we want to also look at is this number right here. Ignore the add a 12. For some reason, it's just there. It's a weird UI glitch. There used to be a candle right here. It's just the same exact UI as enchanting, and I think it's just been like shoehorned into this. So out of 12 we ignore. This first number is the amount of mana this spell costs to cast. This number over here then corresponds to how much it costs us to cast this, or I'm sorry, to make this spell. Jesus. So if I were to, move this number down, you can see that it just kind of takes whatever this is, times it by 3, multiplies it by 3, and that's the spell cost to create. We would just go ahead and press confirm, and we'd press create. So those are the basics of spellcrafting. Let's jump into some nuance now. So after having gone through the basics, let's talk about skill level requirements. So you can stack as many effects as you want here, but the single effect with the highest base magicka cost dictates which skill will be used to cast a spell. So if I fill this with destruction spells, let's just go ahead and put another destruction ability on here. It won't matter if I have 100 destruction. If I don't have enough mysticism to cast this and I jack up the mysticism cost on this, it won't matter. It'll always say like, hey, you need this to cast this spell because that's the single effect that has the highest magicka cost. So what are those breakpoints? When does that start? When is that a thing? So let's bring this all the way down. So at one point we're good. Basically 1 to 26 magicka, there is no level skill level requirement. From 26 to 63, we need 25. So we'll be good here. I'm pretty sure I can go ahead and do that. I know I've got 63. So we'll go ahead at 63. It'll say that we need 50. We'll drop it down one more. There we go. It'll say that we need 50. Drop it down a little bit more. There we go. So you can see that I'm good to go. But 63 to 150, I need 50 skill. It says requires mysticism skill of 50. And then 150 to 400 magicka, I will need 75 skill. So let's go with that. Oh, bring this down more. There we go, 75. So you can see that that is roughly your breakpoints, right? So 25 skill happens at 63 or lower, 50 skill for 150 or lower, and then 75 skill for 400 or so or lower. Then anything over 400 magicka cost requires 100 skill. So those are your breakpoints. Just know those things going into it. Don't try to say, oh, I'm going to use my 100 destruction to shoehorn in this mysticism skill, but I'm going to jack the mysticism skill cost up. Nope, it's always going to go off that single effect with the highest base magicka cost. With all these little things, we have to talk also about efficiency, because you might be tempted to just do this. Let's just make a 30 damage spell. Cool, 30 damage spell. It's going to cost me 46 mana to cast. It's going to be, I'll make it a range spell. So it's actually going to it's going to cost me 69 mana to cast. And it's going to be 207 to make. What you have to know in this game is the efficiency for creating spells, just like it is for enchanting, is based off the magnitude and the duration. So this assumes you're always going to hit that target. And so you're basically kind of running a high risk, high reward, right? Like, yeah, it's going to do 30 damage when you hit it once, but you could also do this. Let's take this damage down to 10 and do 3 seconds. So this doesn't cost us 69 mana, which is unfortunate. It costs us 51 mana. And it's the same amount of damage, just spread across 3 seconds. 10 damage every second for 3 seconds. And this is a great way to kind of use efficiency when it comes to making your spells. And think about the context in which that spell exists. Is it going to be a range spell? Is it going to be a self spell, right? Like, a touch spell? Do I just want to blast someone with my hand and then maybe go to town with my sword? Whatever the situation is, just know how efficiency works. Because another further example here, let's go back to that 30 damage. 30 damage for 1 second on touch is going to be 46. I guess what the range was. Yeah, that made it 69. We'll go to touch. So 30 damage for 1 second for this fire damage spell on touch is 46 mana. Let's bring this down to 10. Remember, it was 46 mana. We're going to add in shock damage. And we're going to add in cold damage. There it is, frost, sorry. So it's 46 damage, right? That was for 30 points of damage. Well, now it's 30 points of damage spread across 3 different elements for the same exact situation of touching it and doing all 3 of these, and it's 33 mana cost. So this gives you a sense of how you can really work efficiency into building your spells. It's not just simply just put the number as high as it can and just fucking strap on and hope for good luck. Nope, you can really tweak these to make this work. It's part of the mini game of spell making, is trying to strike a balance point between the magnitude and the duration that fits your total mana and how you can cast it, right? Like 33 mana is not a lot, but it's a lot in the very beginning of the game. My character is like a Spellblade type of battle mage character, and I think I have 160, 180 mana. That's not a lot of casts of this spell. So you have to consider those things when you're making stuff. So efficiency is a very big portion of spellcrafting. All right, strap in. This is the most difficult portion of this video. This is the thing that most people will struggle with. I struggle explaining it, so I'm going to do my best. I apologize if it's a little convoluted, but I promise this process is a tried and true one that has been researched for years. So when it comes to damage, you can weaken things to an element-specific damage and then further weaken them to magic as a whole. This is called spell stacking, and it is a very, very strong capability in this game. We talked about this in the enchanting video, and I'm reading the comments, a lot of people got lost. So let me see if I can try and do this again properly. So I'm going to add 2 effects to this spell. And just looking at it sequentially, because that's how the effects of the spell work. They'll work in order from the top to the bottom. I'm going to do 10 points of damage. Then this thing will become weakened to fire by 100%. And it will become weakened to magic by 100%. Here's 2 important facts. A weakness to any element, fire, frost, shock, whatever, only stacks once onto this effect above it. So whatever this percentage is, let's just say for hypothetical speaking, and I will show you a chart that makes this make more sense. This number was 500%. It would only do this once. But weakness to magic affects both of these things. So the weakness to magic is going to increase this weakness's effect. So it says 100%. The weakness to magic makes it an additional 100%. So it will do far more damage into the fire. It's really easy to look at this and think that it needs to be the other way around. You weaken something and then do the damage. Where the damage comes in with this spell stack is on the second cast of the spell. So if I cast it the first time, it's just going to do 10 points of damage. But the second time and the third time and the fourth time, that damage is going to exponentially grow and skyrocket. It allows you to do a ton of overall damage. I'm going to switch you on over to the uesp.net wiki for Oblivion spellmaking and show you an actual chart of how this works. So here we go. I know this is just going to look crazy, but we'll get to it. So in this example, they've created 3 spells. Prepare 1, which has weakness to fire and weakness to magic. Prepare 2, weakness to fire and weakness to magic, and fatality, which is just straight fire damage. So basically what the point of this is to create ramping levels of weakness onto a creature. You can either do the weakness as its own spell like they've done here, or have it bound into the spell. So let me give you an example. So it shows you down here fatality, which is just that fire damage spell here, right? If we cast it, it's got 0 weakness to fire or magic, and the total weakness to magic is 0, the total weakness to fire is 0. So the damage multiplier is 1. It will do a 1-to-1, it will do 100 damage. Let's zoom in for those of you that are on mobile. Bring it back down here. Looking now at, I don't want shoes. I'm trying to do a video right now. I've been looking at them. I don't want them right now. Okay, so prepare 1. So in this instance, and think of that spell we just talked about earlier, right? Where it's fire damage and then weakness, boom. In this instance, because the prepare spell is its own spell, it's being cast first. If it's baked into your spell, you need it to be cast second. As you can see right here, weakness to magic amplifies any following harmful spell, including weakness to magic itself. So you either want to do one of 2 things. You're going to make it its own spell, or if you're going to bake it into that custom spell, it has to be at the end because that's how the effect is going to work. So if I were to have this baked in, it would do weakness to fire, weakness to magic. Total weakness to magic is 100 and total weakness to fire is 100. Each one of these 100s are multiplied into that base 100 damage of fire for 400 damage. It's disgusting because then the next cast of the spell, because you're going to cast prepare 1, then prepare 2 again, and then the spell, it does 1600. If we're not doing separate spells, the damage ramp isn't as drastic because this is weaken, cast damage. This is weakening it 3-4 times, cast damage. So this instance is showing us separate castings of spells. Baking it in, like I said before, like we've shown, would be this right here, right? Where it's fire damage, then the weakness, then the weakness. The first cast of the spell does 10 damage. But then the second cast of the spell does 400 damage. So this has a cascading, multiplicative, exponential growth effect. Do all those words fit together in this sentence? I'm not too sure. I'm not that smart. But I know this is a convoluted process. It's why I'm just really breaking it down as best that I can to show you that this method of creating spells is really strong. You always want weakness to magic at the very end, and you always want the subsequent weakness to the elemental above that weakness to magic, and then above that is your elemental damage, or as you see right here, in cascading order. It's super confusing, and the reason I'm spending 3 minutes and 25 seconds on it is because I've gotten so many comments on the weapon enchanting, because I understand it is counterintuitive at first glance, but once you put it through its paces, you'll see it just completely blow something up. One quick subject I want to talk about too is exploiting this system. It's very easy to exploit it. You can do a lot of really crazy things with this. Stacking up spells, in my mind, is not an exploit. That's just using the system in its intended use case, which I think is just getting really destructive spells. But you can use this to cheese leveling up your character and stuff like that. And I'm not going to go through how to do that. I encourage you, if you're brand new to the game, to just go through the process yourself and really have fun with it. You can definitely look up how to do it. It's all over the place, and there's people that have shown how to do it. But you can make a simple spell just completely level through the character if you want by spamming it. Go ahead and do that if you want, but I just don't think it's the way that I want to present information to you, because I feel like that's a spoiler to the enjoyment of the game. And I feel like bringing it up here is worth noting because you can get really out of control. So try to avoid those spoilers if you're new. If you're a veteran, dude, just have at it. You've beaten this game multiple times. Just get weird with it. So you can have a lot of fun doing a lot of really crazy effects here and really cheese the system. So I did want to bring it up in this video because it's why I'm not going to show those off. There are plenty available for you. Go ahead and check them out. Let's talk about some cool combinations that you can do. And also, on the note of overlapping effects, open lock here, you can see we can have this go to, click on the area button. This can go all the way up to like very hard or very easy for us, right? So we can, maybe you just got the ability to cast the spell open lock at easy. You're like, well, I've graduated. I now need normal, I need average. Well, you can create it if you so wish. So you can have that ability to do this. Let's go up to very hard. You could even do it in an area if you wanted. I mean, it'd be ridiculous, but still, you could do 100-foot radius open lock and pop all chests that are locked at very hard. So really, you can do some fun stuff here, or even to having spells. One really popular spell that used to exist was like a fire damage spell, then invisibility. So basically, you'd throw this spell, and then invisibility would put you invisible, or throw this spell, and every time you do, this casts shield on you. So you can overlap defensive, offensive, and defensive spells like this. This is going to put shield on the target though. So you'd have to, there we go. That's what I meant to do. So you cast this spell, it shoots the target gets hit with fire, but you get shield on yourself. So if I were to create this right now, I know I named it Super Feather, but we'll just see real quick. Target, Super Feather, cast it. And now I have shield on myself, but I've cast a fireball. So don't think you have to make solely offensive spells or defensive spells. You can mix and match them and have a lot of fun. So as I've spoken about before, and I've talked about this in my enchanting video, getting access to Fortify or Drain of any singular skill or attribute will then unlock all of them for your spellcrafting or for your enchanting purposes. Now I'm going to go ahead and use this Steed Stone, which is going to give me a greater power, and that greater power is going to give me Fortify, both a skill and an attribute. So we'll click on this. Yes, you have to come to these stones at night, by the way. We'll get Hell Ride. So we're going to go back into our magic. I think it's all is easier. Hell Ride here. So this gives us Fortify Speed, which is an attribute, and then Fortify Acrobatics, which is a skill. Let's jump back over to one of the altars. I'm going to unfortunately go to the enchanting altar in this portion, but don't worry, this works just the same for spellcrafting. Jumping over here to the enchanting screen. Again, I know this is enchanting screen. It's just the save here that I have all this set up. So you can see Fortify Attribute. I click it. I click this and it allows me to choose any attribute from the list, even though something like Fortify Strength takes much more skill to unlock, a restoration skill. So that's a great way to get access to that. Press confirm, or Fortify Skill here will do the exact same thing. This is the same for Drain Attribute or Drain Skill. So I click it and I can choose anything from this list. But I wanted to show this off so that you have an idea of how it works. If you might like, oh, I got Fortify Luck, but I don't see it on the menu, because you have to choose Fortify Attribute and then you can get it going. But at that, it brings our video here to a close. So hopefully this helps you out in crafting your own spells. This is not as dense of a system as enchanting, I feel like. It's a little bit more straightforward, but it still is really wild when it comes to stacking those spells. It's a very weird thing to get into. And I've provided a link to the uesp.net wiki below, so you can go ahead and read through everything that I spoke about. Maybe they worded it in a certain way that makes a little bit more sense, or maybe you were able to really to study the chart that I showed you, and now it makes more sense, whatever it is. If it's confusing, don't worry about it. I'm showing you mainly what you can do with it. But if you just want to make a fireball that's going to just do 40 damage over 1 second, who gives a shit? Go ahead and do it. You don't have to jump into the meta game and the super min-maxy of all this stuff if you're just playing on Adept. Maybe if you're on Master, sure, I totally understand, but play this game how you want. You spent your money, so enjoy it however the hell you want. Don't listen to what the hell the internet tells you. Enjoy this process, enjoy this mechanic. It is, like I said, pretty dense, but it is one that is very fun, and I am personally upset it didn't make it into Skyrim. So I'm excited to see if it makes itself into Elder Scrolls 6. But if you have any big tips for enchanting, let it be known in the comment section below. Like, hey, this is a really great way to go about this. Or maybe use Frenzy in an area of effect followed by invisibility. So now you're invisible and then everything's going to start attacking themselves, whatever it is. There's plenty of ways and a lot of cool things that you can do with spellcrafting in this game. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.